The mountain storm had been raging for 3 days when Elena Rodriguez first saw the lights. Through the thick pines surrounding her cabin, strange blue flashes cut through the darkness like fallen lightning. She pressed her face against the frosted window. Watching the eerie glow pulse against the storm clouds, Elena had chosen this remote location precisely because nothing ever happened here. After losing her husband in the war, she craved solitude among the peaks where only eagles dared venture. The nearest town lay 50 miles down treacherous mountain roads. And that was exactly how she preferred it. Another flash illuminated the forest closer this time. The light held an otherworldly quality that made her skin prickle with unease. She grabbed her father's old rifle from above the fireplace, where she had no idea what good it would do against. Whatever was out there, the silence that followed felt heavier than the storm itself. Elena pulled on her heavy coat and stepped onto the cabin's covered porch. Snow swirled in the wind, stinging her cheeks as she scanned the tree line. Then she heard it, a sound that didn't belong in these mountains. Metal groaning against stone like a massive machine in distress. Her boots crunched through knee-deep snow as she followed the sound deeper into the forest. The rifle felt solid in her gloved hands, though her heart hammered against her ribs. 20 minutes of climbing brought her to a clearing she'd never seen before, where something impossible waited. The craft looked nothing like human technology. Its hull gleamed silver-black even in the dim light, smooth curves interrupted by geometric patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. One wing had crumpled against a massive boulder, and a jagged tear in the side revealed flickering lights within. Elena approached slowly, rifle raised. The ship was roughly the size of a small airplane, but its design defied everything she knew about flight. No visible engines, no conventional control surfaces, just elegant lines that somehow suggested both incredible speed and impossible grace. A sound from inside made her freeze. Not mechanical, but organic. Someone or something was alive in there. Every instinct screamed at her to run back to the cabin and pretend she'd never seen this place. But another sound reached her ears, weaker now, almost like crying. Elena lowered her rifle and moved closer to the torn opening. The interior glowed with soft blue light, revealing what looked like a cockpit designed for someone roughly human-sized. And slumped in the pilot's seat was a figure that made her breath catch. He was humanoid, but clearly not human.
Alan Lean.
With skin that held a faint golden undertone. His hair was white as fresh snow, though his face appeared young. Blood, or something like blood, stained his strange clothing, and one arm hung at an unnatural angle. But it was the bundle cradled against his chest that made Elena step through the opening into the ship. A baby's cry, weak but unmistakable, rose from the protective curve of his arms. The man's eyes opened as she approached. Large, violet eyes that held intelligence and desperate pain. When he saw her, his lips moved soundlessly, forming words in a language she'd never heard. But his gesture was universal as he lifted the crying infant toward her with his good arm. Elena set down her rifle, carefully took the bundle. The baby was tiny, with the man's golden skin tone, but distinctly human features. A girl, she realized, perhaps 6 months old, half human somehow, though that should have been impossible. The man spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. This time she caught something that sounded like a name, Ziva. His violet eyes fixed on hers with desperate intensity, and she understood. He was entrusting his daughter to a complete stranger because he was dying. Elena looked at the broken ship, the injured alien, and the hybrid child, now quiet in her arms. Every rational thought told her to walk away from this impossibility. Instead, she found herself calculating how to get both of them back to her cabin through the storm. This is insane, she whispered to herself, but she was already planning. The Journey Home, Part 2. Healing Hearts Elena had managed to fashion a makeshift stretcher from pine branches and rope, dragging the unconscious alien through the snow while carrying baby Ziva against her chest. By the time she reached the cabin, her muscles screamed with exhaustion and both her patience. needed immediate attention. She cleared her dining table and carefully lifted the man onto its surface. In the warm lamplight, she could see his injuries. More clearly, his left shoulder was definitely dislocated, possibly broken. Deep gashes across his torso had bled through his strange garments. But strangest of all, his wounds seemed to be slowly closing themselves. The baby stirred against Elena's chest, making soft mewing sounds that tugged at her heart. She had no idea what alien infants ate, but the child's human features suggested she might be able to nurse on regular formula. Elena prepared a bottle while keeping one eye on the unconscious man. Ziva accepted the formula eagerly, her tiny hands grasping at the bottle with surprising strength. As she fed, Elena found herself studying the baby's features. Definitely mixed. Heritage, the golden skin, and slightly pointed ears spoke of alien blood. But her facial structure and the way she moved were purely human. A groan from the table made Elena look up. The man's violet eyes had opened again, clearer now than in the crashed ship. He tried to sit up but gasped in pain, one hand moving instinctively toward where Ziva had been. "She's safe," Elena said softly, adjusting the baby so he could see. "Her. I'm feeding her. You need to stay still." Understanding flickered in his eyes. He spoke in that musical language again, then seemed to realize she didn't comprehend. When he tried English, his accent was thick, but the words were clear. "Thank you. I am called Kale, Elena," she replied, surprised by how natural this felt. Despite the impossibility of it all, "Your daughter." Pain crossed his features that had nothing to do with his injuries. "Half-daughter." Her mother was human. His voice carried deep sadness. "My people. They would kill her for what she represents. Kill us both." Lena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain cold. "That's why you crashed here? You were running?" Kale nodded slowly. "Hunters followed us across the galaxy. I thought I could lose them in your planet's wilderness." His gaze moved to Ziva, who had finished her bottle and was making contented sounds. "I failed her. Oh, yeah. I was supposed to protect her. You got her to safety," Elena said firmly. "That's what matters now." She spent the next hour cleaning and binding his wounds, marveling at how rapidly they healed under her ministrations. His skin felt warm under her hands, with a subtle electric tingle that made her pulse quicken in ways she hadn't experienced since her husband's death. Kale watched her work with those striking violet eyes, and she found herself increasingly aware of his presence. Despite his injuries and alien nature, there was something undeniably attractive about him. Sharp angles of his face, the lean strength in his frame, the way he looked at his daughter with such tender devotion. "Why did you help us?" he asked. As she secured the last bandage, most humans would have fled. Lena considered the question while settling Ziva in a makeshift crib near the fire. "I lost someone I loved in a war," she said finally. "I know what it's like to feel helpless, to have everything taken away. I couldn't walk away from that." Something shifted in Kale's expression. "You understand loss." "I understand love," Elena corrected, surprised by her own boldness. "And what someone will do to protect what they love." Their eyes met across the warm cabin, and Elena felt something electric pass between them. Not just the alien energy she sensed in his touch, but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or possibility. Kale reached out with his uninjured hand, his fingers barely brushing hers. "You are remarkable, Elena Rodriguez." The way he said her name with that musical accent made her heart skip. She found herself leaning closer, drawn by forces she didn't understand. His violet eyes darkened as she approached, and she realized, with a start, that desire was apparently universal. But before either could close the distance between them, Ziva began crying again, breaking the spell. Elena pulled back, flustered by how quickly she'd been ready to kiss a man she'd just met, an alien man whose daughter she was now helping to raise. "She needs changing," Elena said, grateful for the distraction. She tended to the baby. She could feel Kale's eyes on her, and the cabin suddenly felt much smaller and warmer than before. Elena woke to the sound of engines echoing off the mountain peaks. Not the familiar rumble of helicopters or planes, but something else entirely, a high whine that seemed to vibrate through the cabin walls. Beside her makeshift bed on the floor, Kale was already sitting up, his healing injuries apparently forgotten in the face of immediate danger. "They found us," he whispered, violet eyes wide with fear. In the 3 days since the crash, he'd recovered with startling speed. His alien physiology, healing wounds that should have taken weeks. But now, all that recovery meant nothing if they were caught. Alina scooped Ziva from her crib, the baby stirring sleepily in her arms. Over the past few days, she'd grown attached to the child in ways that surprised her. Ziva had begun reaching for Alina when she cried, settling immediately at the sound of her voice. The bond felt natural, maternal, despite the circumstances. "How many?" Alina asked, moving to the window. Through the trees, she could see lights moving in search patterns, methodical and relentless. 3 ships, maybe 4. Kale was pulling. On the clothes Alina had given him, her late husband's gear that fit him surprisingly well. Commander Dex leads them. He's been hunting hybrid children across the galaxy for years. Alina felt sick. Children, plural, ex-bloodlines, are considered an abomination by the purist faction. They believe any mingling of species weakens us. Kale's voice carried bitter anger. Ziva's mother died protecting her from them. Now they've followed us here. The sound of the ships grew closer. Alina made a decision that surprised her with its swiftness. "We run. I know these mountains better than anyone. Alina, you don't understand what you're risking. If they find you harboring us, then they'll have to catch us first." She was already packing supplies, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd spent years preparing for emergencies. "There's an old mining tunnel about 5 miles north. We can hide there until they move on." Kale caught her hand as she reached for her rifle. "Why are you doing this? You could hand us over and be safe." Alina looked down at Ziva, then back into Kale's violet eyes. Over the past 3 days, something had grown between them, conversations by the fire while the baby slept. Shared meals, moments when their hands touched while caring for Ziva. Attraction, yes, but something deeper too. "Because I care about you," she said simply. "Both of you." The admission hung in the air between them until the sound of landing ships made them both move. Lena strapped Ziva into a carrier against her chest, while Kale shouldered their supply pack. They slipped out the back door just as lights began sweeping the cabin's front windows. The journey through the snow-covered forest tested every survival skill Alina had learned growing up in these mountains. She led them along deer paths and through stream beds, anywhere that might confuse thermal tracking. Kale moved behind her with surprising grace. His alien nature, apparently including enhanced endurance. They'd been hiking for 2 hours. When they heard the first sign of pursuit, the distinctive whine of scout drones cutting through the trees, Alina pressed them deeper into a ravine, but she knew they were running out of places to hide. "The tunnel entrance is just ahead," she whispered, pointing to a dark opening in the rocky hillside. But as they approached, movement in the shadows made them freeze. A figure stepped into view, tall, angular, with the same golden skin as Kale, but cold silver eyes instead of warm violet. His clothing was black and form-fitting, clearly military in design. When he smiled, it held no warmth at all. "Hello, brother," Commander Dex said in perfect English. "You've led us quite a chase." Kale pushed Alina behind him protectively. "Let them go, Dex. Your quarrel is with me." "My quarrel is with the abomination you created," Dex replied, his gaze moving to Ziva, and with the human contamination that allowed it to exist. Alina felt fury rise in her chest. No one threatened a child in her presence. Alien politics be damned. But before she could speak, Kale's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "Run when I give the signal," he murmured. "I'm not leaving you for Ziva," he said urgently. "She needs you." The truth of that statement hit Alina like a physical blow. Somewhere in the past few days, she'd become this child's mother in every way that mattered. Kale. Kale had become something she hadn't expected to find again after her husband's death. "Together," she whispered fiercely. "We face this together." Kale's violet eyes met hers, and she saw love there, real, deep, and completely mutual. In 3 impossible days, they'd created something worth fighting for. Together, he agreed. Commander Dex raised what looked like a weapon, but Alina was already moving, pulling Kale toward the deeper shadows of the mining tunnel. Whatever happened next, they would face it as a family. The mining tunnel stretched deep into the mountain, but Alina knew it wouldn't hide them for long. Behind them, she could hear Dex communicating with his hunters in their musical alien language, the sounds echoing off the rock walls with increasing urgency. "There's an old equipment chamber about half a mile in," Alina whispered as they moved through the darkness. "It has multiple exits." Kale shifted their supply pack, his enhanced vision clearly better suited to the tunnel than her human eyes. Dex won't give up. He's been hunting hybrids for decades. It's become an obsession. Ziva stirred against Elena's chest, making soft sounds that seemed impossibly loud in the confined space. Elena gently bounced her, hoping to keep the baby quiet. But she knew sound would travel far in these tunnels. They reached the equipment chamber, just as lights began flickering behind them. The old mining operation had left behind rusted machinery and wooden support beams, creating a maze of hiding spots. But it also created a trap if they chose wrong, Alina. Kale's voice was soft but urgent. "If something happens to me, take Ziva, and use the northern exit. Follow the old railway grade down the mountain." "There's a town, nothing's going to happen to you," Alina cut him off fiercely. "We're all getting out of here." But even as she spoke, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the chamber. Multiple sets, coordinated and methodical. Dex had brought reinforcements. Kale drew what looked like a curved blade from his belt. Apparently, he'd been armed this whole time. "Stay behind the ore crusher. No matter what happens, protect Ziva." Alina wanted to argue, but the baby in her arms made the choice for her. She crouched behind the massive rusted machine, heart pounding as alien voices filled the chamber. Through gaps in the machinery, she watched 3 figures emerge into the space decks, and 2 others, all carrying weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. "Enough hiding, Kale," Dex called out, his voice carrying casual authority. "You're injured, exhausted, and outnumbered. Surrender the hybrid, and the human woman might live." "The only thing you'll get from me is a fight," Kale replied, stepping into view with his blade raised. What followed was like nothing Alina had ever seen. Kale moved. With inhuman speed and grace, his blade deflecting energy blasts that would have killed any human. But he was still healing from his crash injuries, and 3 against 1 were impossible odds. Alina watched in growing horror as Kale was slowly overwhelmed. A blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Another grazed his leg, making him stumble. But he kept fighting, kept drawing their attention away from where she hid with Ziva. Then she heard engines outside, more ships landing. How many hunters had Dex brought? But the voice that shouted from the tunnel entrance wasn't alien. "Alina, Alina, where are you?" Marcus. Her brother had somehow found her, probably following the same crashed ship reports that had drawn her into the forest. Alina's heart soared and sank simultaneously. Help had arrived. But she'd also drawn her family into mortal danger. The distraction cost Kale dearly. While his attention was split, Dex's weapon found its mark, dropping him to his knees. Alina saw the alien commander raise his weapon for a killing shot and made a choice that surprised even her. She stood up from behind the ore crusher. Ziva clutched protectively against her chest. "Stop," she shouted. "You want the baby? Take me instead." Dex's cold silver eyes fixed on her with interest. The human offers herself for the abomination. How predictably sentimental. "She's just a child," Elena said, stepping slowly into the open. "Whatever sins you think she represents, she's innocent." "Innocence is irrelevant," Dex replied. "She carries contaminated blood. She cannot be allowed to live." Alina felt fury burn through her fear. "Then you'll have to kill me first." Dex smiled that cold smile again. "If you insist." But before he could fire, Marcus appeared at the chamber entrance with 3 other figures. Alina recognized them as park rangers, all armed with very human weapons. The cavalry had arrived just in time. "Drop your weapons," Marcus commanded, taking in the scene with military precision. The alien hunters turned toward this new threat, giving Kale the opening he needed. Despite his injuries, he surged upward, his blade finding Dex's weapon and sending it spinning away. What followed was chaos, energy blasts. Rifle shots shouted commands in 2 languages. Alina pressed herself against the wall, shielding Ziva with her body while the battle raged around them. When the smoke cleared, Dex lay unconscious on the tunnel floor, his hunters either down or fled. Kale slumped against a support beam, Violet, blood seeping between his fingers where he pressed them to a wound in his side. Alina ran to him, Ziva crying against her chest. Kale, stay with me. Stay awake. His violet eyes found hers, already growing dim. Is she... Is Ziva safe? She's safe, Alina whispered, tears streaming down her face. We're all safe now. But as Kale's eyes fluttered closed, Alina realized that safety might have come at a price she wasn't willing to pay. The medical tent that Marcus had set up outside the mining tunnel buzzed with activity. But Elena's world had narrowed to the unconscious figure on the makeshift stretcher. Kale's breathing was shallow, his golden skin pale from blood loss. Elena's human medics had done what they could, but alien physiology was beyond their expertise. His vital signs are stabilizing, Dr. Morrison reported, checking the improvised monitoring equipment, but I've never seen anything like this. His cellular structure seems to be attempting some kind of self-repair. Alina barely heard him. Shh. Sat beside Kale's stretcher, with Ziva sleeping peacefully in her arms, one hand resting on his chest to feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Over the past 6 days, this small family had become everything to her. She couldn't lose him now. Marcus appeared at her shoulder, concern clear in his familiar eyes. Alina, you need to eat something. Rest. I'll watch him. Not leaving. Her voice was hoarse from whispered encouragements and half-remembered lullabies sung to both Kale and Ziva throughout the long night. He protected us. He was willing to die for us. And now you're willing to die for him? Marcus asked gently. That baby needs you healthy, sis. Alina looked down at Ziva, who had taken to sleep and curled against Elena's chest as if she belonged there. In many ways, she did. The baby had accepted Alina completely, crying when other people held her, settling only when returned to Elena's arms.
Alina said softly.
However this happened, wherever she came from, she's my daughter. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. What about her father? Before Alina could answer, Kale's eyes fluttered open. They were clearer than they'd been for hours, focused and aware. His gaze went immediately to Ziva, then to Elena's face. You stayed, he whispered. Of course I stayed. Elena's throat tightened with emotion. You scared me? Don't ever do that again. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I'll try to remember that for future battles. Dr. Morrison appeared with his medical scanner, amazement clear in his voice. This is incredible. Your tissue regeneration has accelerated dramatically. It's like your body responded to some kind of emotional stimulus. Kale's violet eyes never left Elena's face. Perhaps it did. Over the following days, as Kale recovered with startling speed, Alina learned more about the wider implications of what they'd experienced. Commander Dex had been extradited to face charges with the Galactic Council, apparently. His hunting of hybrid children violated several interstellar treaties. More importantly, public opinion was shifting toward acceptance of mixed unions. Saval represents hope, Kale explained as they sat on Elena's porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. The baby gurgled happily in Elena's lap, reaching for the colorful lights. It's not contamination, as the purists claimed, but evolution. The future of both our species. Alina leaned against his shoulder, marveling at how natural this felt. What about us? What's our future? Kale's arm tightened around her. If you'll have me, I'd like to find out. Love you, Elena Rodriguez. I think I started falling in love with you the moment you chose to help a stranger and his child. I love you too, Alina replied without hesitation. Both of you. Ziva chose that moment to reach up and grab Elena's nose, making them both laugh. The sound echoed across the peaceful valley, a promise of joy to come. 6 months later, Elena stood in the same spot, but everything had changed. The small cabin had been expanded to accommodate their growing family. Kale had proven surprisingly handy with human construction techniques. A garden bloomed where once only wild plants had grown, tended by alien hands that seemed to understand growing things instinctively. The larger changes were harder to see, but more significant. Alina had become the unofficial liaison between the human government and the small community of aliens who'd chosen to settle on Earth. Her experience with Kale and Ziva had made her uniquely qualified to help others navigate the challenges of interspecies relationships. Ziva, now walking and babbling in two languages, had become a symbol of possibility rather than shame. Other mixed families had emerged from hiding, emboldened by the success of Alina and Kale's very public love story. "Are you ready for this?" Kale asked, adjusting his formal clothes with nervous hands. Today was special, the first official interspecies marriage ceremony on Earth, broadcast across both worlds as a symbol of unity. Alina looked at herself in the mirror, wearing her grandmother's wedding dress modified to accommodate Ziva, who would be walking down the aisle with them. "I've been ready since the night I found you crashed in my forest." As they prepared to step outside where friends, family, and representatives from both worlds waited, Alina reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What had started as a desperate flight from persecution had become a love story that bridged the stars. Kale took her hand, his violet eyes bright with joy. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Together," Alina agreed, lifting Ziva into her arms as they walked toward their new beginning.